and an interlock, and it was, competition to get to the orchestra. And it was while I was sitting principal in the orchestra, I went through an issue with my embouchure, which had me like it just I watched over the space of a month my fairly good range just slowly slink into this like tiny, it was
Right.
horrible. And it kind of started with overblowing in a mouthpiece, and trying to fix that issue through product was not working. It
Right.
was an anxiety thing, I think, that was happening. But I went through a stage during that process that I was trying to fix it with product and change up mouthpieces. And of course that wasn't working. So I think that experience in itself kind of turned me off from just trying to find a mouthpiece. And I think that probably turns a lot of people off. At some point as a brass player, we think, well, maybe I could fix this with product. And because we know nothing about product and we don't know our own faces well enough,
Right.
we have a bad experience. And so we say, well, good enough is good enough, and I'm just going to stay here, which isn't
Hmm.
really the answer either.
Right.
So I think that probably described my life from there until, I started working for Dennis Wick. And I got into Dennis Wick playing in the brass bands. Spent money and loans on planning on being part of the CSO someday. And then I got done with grad school and I started playing with the Chicago Brass Band, which is a competitive brass band. And
Yep.
oh, it was just the most thrilling thing. I just looked forward those. I hated going to auditions. I got through, whatever orchestral, sub gigs I was doing, and I looked forward to brass band stuff. And I
Right.
thought, the goal is to be happy doing what I'm doing. So I kind of veered
Yeah.
away from orchestral and decided I love chamber music. I love brass band. And that's where I
Yeah.
shifted my career focus. At the time, I was playing on the cornet, Dennis Wick cornet mouthpieces, but I hadn't really found a trumpet mouthpiece I could, settle in on. And I'd already started the Alliance Brass Quintet with Chris O'Hara, and I'm not sure if Kelly was in the brass quintet by that point. I think this was early on, but I remember we were rehearsing for one of our shows, and these were like long 2 hour long brass quintet shows, which were a little taxing.
Right.
And at the time, Dennis Wick had just came out with the American Classic mouthpiece. And at the time, I was playing on a Lasky trumpet mouthpiece, which I liked, but I could play consistently one sound, but I couldn't expand. I couldn't shift the sound. And
Right.
with my cornet playing, I could lean into the sound and lean out of the sound and change the
Right.
colors. And so I was in the process, and I think this is the healthy place to start. I realized I wasn't getting the tone I wanted out of this mouthpiece, that for every other respect, it was comfortable. I felt supported. I had good endurance. Everything was going good, but the tone I wanted out of it was not what I wanted.
Right.
So I'd been kind of lightly searching for the things. Dennis Wick makes this American Classic mouthpiece. I stick it in for the rehearsal, and this rehearsal was running long, and we ended with I can't remember what it was, but I remember having to do an octave jump at the very end of it. And on this American Classic, which had felt like my last gap to that point, after 3 hours of playing, the octave just popped for me. And
Yeah.
it was like explosions went off in my head, and I became a product person because I realized product does make a difference. First and
Yeah.
foremost, you've got to be doing this correctly. You've got to know your face, but product makes a difference. And my
Right.
endurance changed, my ability changed, my ability to change the sound as I needed to. And all these things that I think over the years I'd learned about mouthpieces and sound, it all came together through finding a mouthpiece that was playing with the sound that I actually wanted. And I
Yeah.
learned that, you manipulate. So when you don't get the sound right away, the mouthpiece can feel really good. But if you're not getting the right sound, your ear is your strongest muscle, and your ear will tell your face to manipulate in ways that you can't stop to get the sound
Right.
that you want. So finding the mouthpiece that creates the sound off the bat, you'll know it.
Right.
Everybody around you will know it, and then you'll feel it in 1,000 different ways as well.